Welcome to Young's Court Podcast, episode 18. Trying something new, live video today for the first time on Instagram Live as well. So I'll get live feedback, which will be great. Very, very interested to see what people will be saying. So let's start off with today's headlines. We have Kenny Atkinson out as Nets coach. Is LeBron this year's MVP? The playoff race out west, March Madness. I love March Madness. And 5 players to watch, and an updated NBA power rankings. Just quick plug again. Happy Women's History Month. There are currently right now 11 women's assistant coaches in the NBA, and it's not talked about enough. And it's definitely not talked about enough. The women's game, the WNBA, college women's basketball opportunities abroad, and we're starting to get a lot of women coaching in multiple sports, not just the NBA, and that's great to see. So my Nets, that's first up to talk about. Kenny Atkinson, 4 years as the Nets head coach. The Nets and him agreed to mutually agreed to part ways, and last year's team 42-40. I thought Kenny Atkinson did a great job as the head coach, and he was really great in player development. So it's really confusing and odd why they just got rid of. What's up, Freddie? It's really confusing and odd why the Nets decided to get rid of that coach. And the GM, Sean Marks, says the Nets need a new voice. But I think the timing was terrible. The Nets 7th in the East right now, and I think they would have had a good chance in the first round if they didn't get Milwaukee. But now, getting rid of their head coach this late in the season really looks for fans and the players. It really is kind of a disappointment because we don't know what's going to happen for the rest of the season. We have Jacques Vaughn stepping in as the Nets head coach, and he got his first win under his belt against the Bulls without Zach LaVine playing, and I'm just interested to see where the Nets are going. And the talk around the league is that the new players, KD and Kyrie, kind of helped force to get a new head coach, and I think we should just let him ride it out for the season, but only time will tell. All right, so the Lakers, next to talk about them. 2 big games back-to-back for LeBron. Actually, 3 big games for the Lakers. Anthony Davis was really another huge factor in their 3 wins against Philly, Milwaukee, and the LA Clippers. He's definitely the most important player to LeBron this season, Anthony Davis, and his success. And the Lakers' success really is focused on if Anthony Davis plays well in the playoffs. And those wins over Milwaukee and the Clippers were really big wins for the Lakers. I didn't think they could beat both of those teams. I thought Milwaukee maybe. I think Giannis got hurt, in the fourth. He hurt his knee, and that was a little deflating from Milwaukee because they've lost a few games now. And the Clippers, that was a big win for them to get over the hump. The Clippers just have a better roster on paper. Definitely their bench, but if LeBron and AD play well, they can definitely win a championship this year. So the next question is LeBron the favorite for the MVP? I will go ahead and say, as of now, no. Just because of Giannis's numbers and the fact that Milwaukee is the best team. He's averaging 30 points and 14 rebounds a game. LeBron's averaging a ridiculous 27 points, 11 assists, and about 8 rebounds a game. Both of them are right there neck and neck for MVP, but I think we got to look at LeBron, and people will look at LeBron and say this far along in his career to have played so many seasons and to be doing what he's doing. We have to give him real consideration to be the MVP. And we don't know if the Bucks are going to start to rest Giannis now with this knee injury, and what's going to happen for the rest of the season. Only about 20 games left. So the Lakers, next we're going to talk about, first let me just say someone's definitely going to get snubbed this year for the MVP, whether it's LeBron, Giannis, they do 2 players. Harden's having a ridiculous season, but nobody's really talking about that because there's a lot of things going on in Houston. But I'm very interested to see who gets the MVP this season. A very coveted award with many people that probably only two that deserve it, and a bunch of other people that are right there. All right, so next, the race in the West for the playoffs. So many teams locked in between 2 and 7. We know the Lakers, they have a 6.5 game lead right now for the West, the first seed, and anyone else can really move into that second to seventh spot, like I said, which has been shuffling around all season. And we have Memphis in the 8th seed, and I think that's a terrible matchup for Memphis, and a really good matchup for the Lakers. I think the fans would love to see the Lakers get matched up with the Pelicans, and that would be, great for basketball also to see Zion in his first season, what he's done in limited action, play against LeBron, and then what we've seen in that when they played against each other, they matched up. It was very entertaining basketball, even the Lakers, and LeBron put on a show and showed why he's still one of the best players in the league. Moving on to my top 5 players to watch this March Madness. Love college basketball, huge basketball fan overall, and the first player at number 5 I have is Tyrese Maxey on Kentucky, shooting guard, very skilled. He's not putting up huge numbers right now, but I look for him to have a breakout NCAA tournament and also SEC tournament. And Emmanuel Quickly has been playing very well for them as well. At 4, I have Vernon Carey of Duke. He was just named Rookie of the Year in the ACC, and he's having a great year. And not enough people talk about him as being a high draft pick. I'm really interested to see if he gets drafted in that lottery or has a good run in the ACC and the NCAA tournament to move up into that top 10, because he can do a lot of things. At 3, I have Devon Dotson of Kansas, arguably the best point guard in the nation. Nobody talks about Kansas that much. They are the number 1 team in the nation. Maybe it's because they're out in the Midwest. We don't get to see all of their games, but a lot of the games actually are on national TV. And he is a very good player, stud. He can score, he can pass, has a good big man that he plays along with. And Devon Dotson is a name that people will definitely be talking about after the March Madness. Number 2, I'm actually right across from, when I look this way, the Prudential Center, and Miles Powell has had a great career at Seton Hall, and I just want to see if he can continue it and he can give one of those runs like Kemba did not so long ago and just run through the Big East tournament and put up ridiculous numbers to lead Seton Hall to a Big East championship and deep into the tournament. I don't know if they have the talent to win the national championship, but it will be entertaining to see Miles Powell putting up the numbers he's put up all season. And at number 1, I have Obi Toppin of Dayton. It's just ridiculous. He's going through his legs on fast breaks. He's windmilling every game. Really like what he's done for basketball. Obi Toppin of Dayton. That is a name that will definitely creep up in the NCAA tournament and probably be a high pick in the NBA draft. All right, last I have my NBA power rankings for this past week. I have at number 10, Oklahoma City. I watched a great game the other night where they played Boston. And Chris Paul is just, people forget that he is one of the best point guards in the league. Played very well and definitely down the stretch made some clutch shots. Actually watching ESPN right now, and they're talking about Boston's struggles, but they had a tough schedule recently in late February into March. At number 9, I have Utah, 41-22, 5-game winning streak. This team had a huge winning streak also. No, don't end it, Team Bron. People are saying Team Bron. Utah had a huge winning streak when they got Jordan Clarkson, and we never know which Utah team we're going to get. They have a lot of new pieces, but this is a dangerous team. Good bench, not a great bench. It all depends on what their matchup is. They're 4th in the West right now, so that 4-5 game is very tough in the playoffs in the West, and that's probably going to give you a second-round matchup with the Lakers if you can even get out. and Utah does not match up with the Lakers well with the Lakers, in my opinion. At 8, we have Miami, 40-23, Eastern Conference hopefuls and challengers of the Bucks. I like Miami. I like their depth. I like their shooting. I like Jimmy Butler. He's very tough. Brings a great culture to Miami. I don't know if they can get past Milwaukee. In the East, it's all about getting the second or the third seed, so you avoid playing Milwaukee in the second round. You really want to try to get them after they played a few series, and hopefully maybe they have some injuries. We don't know what's going on with Giannis right now. But Miami, I like their roster and what they've done. At 7 in my power rankings, I have Houston, 39-23. Very hot after the All-Star break. Russell Westbrook is coming on very strong. Losers of 3 straight, though. Very bad loss also at New York. I was watching that game live, and we just don't know. Will this strategy work of the 3-and-D, the small ball? It has its nights where it looks really good and they're scoring tons of points, and then it has its other nights where they're not shooting well, and that happened against the Clippers and they got blown out. So in the playoffs, for them, it's about matchups. You got to play a team like Denver. I think they could play well against Denver, Utah. Houston does not match up well with teams like the Lakers and Clippers. Although some sports analysts, basketball analysts, think that they match up well with basically every other team in the West, I would definitely disagree with that. At 6, I have Denver, 42-21, holding on to the 3rd seed in the West. And this is definitely the NBA's most underappreciated team. No one thinks this team has a legit chance to win the championship. And I struggle to understand why. Last year, best record in the West. And, this year, I think we saw a little bit of Michael Porter Jr. We've seen Jeremy Grant step in. They have players. They're very deep also. This is a team that is primed for a long run in the playoffs. But this year, it's all about the LA team. So I'm interested to see what happens with Denver. At 5, I have Boston. I just talked about the tough loss to Oklahoma City at home. But this team has proven that they are a viable threat to get out of the East this year. I really think a 7-game series with Milwaukee fits them very well because they can shoot. They have multiple players that can play defense. I think they can throw the most guys at Giannis next to Miami in the East, because you can put Jaylen Brown on him. You can put a little bit of Jason Tatum on him. You can put a little bit of Gordon Hayward, Semi Ojeleye off the bench. I like Daniel Tice on him. So it's a bunch of guys you can throw at Giannis, and they can get out and guard the three-pointer. That's what Milwaukee's really good at. So I'm looking at Boston and saying this is a team that on paper should be just as good as anybody else in the East, but only the playoffs and time will tell. I keep saying in the East and the West, it's always, in any playoff scenario, any sport, it's always good to get the best seed possible. But for Boston and a team like Denver, a team like Utah, you want to creep into that 2 or 3 spot so you can avoid, having to play the 1 seed in the second round. At 4, I have Toronto. At the beginning of this season, I didn't know if Toronto was going to be good after losing Kawhi, but they had another solid week. Big win last night at Denver, and great contributions from guys off their bench. Norman Powell healthy now, really like what he's been doing. Really impressed with Toronto, and Terrence Davis as well. We all know Pascal Siakam is having a great season, and Kyle Lowry as well. Thanks, Coach Aldero. Appreciate you. So at 3 in my power rankings, I have the Clippers, 43-20. This was a team that I had as my number 1 team in my power rankings, my podcast for many weeks. most of the season, and they're playing even better basketball now than they were playing before. And they added so many new pieces, so they're still getting adjusted, to playing with all those new pieces. And I think by the end of the season, the Clippers are going to be the best team. But for now, they're trying to mold all these new guys together, and it just hasn't really worked from game to game. And I think that's what they ran into when they played the Lakers. But I really like the Clippers to make a long run in the playoffs. And at 2, I have Milwaukee. They're losers of 3 out of the last 4 games, really struggling. They actually had a tough game at Phoenix, but they didn't really play any of their roster. So Milwaukee is still one of the best teams in the league. Giannis in this knee sprain is really a concern to see how healthy he is. But with the best record in the NBA, but the Lakers are creeping. They, they're in the East. It's like if you get the 1 seed in the East, you get Orlando or you get the Nets. That's kind of a gimme series, and then from there, very interested to see what Milwaukee does. And at 1, I have the Lakers. Big wins last week. Wins over the other 2 best teams in the league, the Clippers and Milwaukee. And they're proving right now that they're one of the strongest teams, down to the finish. And I think, between the Lakers and Clippers, we don't know what's going to happen. Let me answer this question, though. The Clippers aren't going to be the best team. They have no chemistry. Oh, that is really good. So I'm going to answer that. Clippers, yes, don't really have much chemistry now, but with 20 games left in the season, that's plenty of time to build chemistry. They were coming on well when Paul George just came back these last few games, and then they ran into a roadblock when they played the Lakers. And you got to look at the Lakers and you got to say LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to make plays down the stretch. Can Kawhi and Paul George make more plays? I feel like they can, and I feel like the other guys on the team's got to step up and be better. They got no contribution from really anyone else besides Harrell. Patrick Beverley didn't have a good game. Marcus Morris, he has not been shooting well since he got traded or he signed with the Clippers. And we got to see, if they're gonna match up well. But I really like the Clippers. All right, just wanted to thank people for watching my first live video. I think I'm gonna try to do a few more. I got some good feedback on here, and thanks for listening to my podcast.